Hello, Eric. How are you?
Glenn, it's great to be on.
It's great to have you. Great to have you. Your book, what your family has gone through, is just the radically souped up version of what I think a lot of people feel they have gone through in their life. But man, they have tried to kill you guys. They have tried to put you in jail. They've tried to destroy you every single step of the way. Tell me about the motivation for putting that all down on paper.
Yeah, Glenn, I think that's right. It went to Amazon #1 almost instantly, Under Siege, and it's been incredible. But I came up with you're right. I mean, I was a guy who didn't have any constitutional protections. I wasn't in government. So guess who they came after? They came after me. I was the most subpoenaed person in American history, all because I ran the Trump Organization, which was, effectively what my father spent his entire life doing. And they wanted to see us taken down. They wanted to see us destroyed. I mean, look what they did, right? Between 2 impeachments, they raided our home, they silenced us, they gag ordered us. There's more gag orders than I can possibly count. They took us off of Twitter, they took us off of Facebook, they took us off of Instagram. They made up the phony dossier that was paid for by Hillary Clinton. They made up Russiagate. Glenn, I was the guy who was getting the call from the FBI saying, Eric, I hear you have secret servers communicating with the Kremlin in the basement of Trump Tower. I mean, give me a break. They tried to take out our Supreme Court justices. I mean, they did everything. They weaponized the media. They weaponized the DOJ. They weaponized the FBI. They charged my father 91 times, 91 criminal counts. They fined the Trump Organization almost $600 million for not doing a damn thing wrong. And all of this stuff has been overturned. But they wanted to see us non-existent. They wanted to see our family broken. They wanted to see, my father in jail. They probably wanted to see me in jail. And then I said on Sean Hannity one night, Sean, they've done all of this to us. They put us under siege. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to kill my father. And then you saw what happened at Butler, and then you saw what happened, 8 weeks later at Trump International in West Palm. You saw what just happened to Charlie. I mean, I published this book literally 3 days before Charlie Kirk's assassination. I mean, you want to talk about another time they tried to put our movement under siege. They've done it to you. They've done it to every single one of your listeners. They've debanked us. They've deplatformed us. And the story had to be told from a first-person perspective who effectively dealt with all of it. And the greatest part of the whole story is we won. We won, and we're saving the country right now.
So Eric, how do you deal with – I just had a conversation with somebody I think is really, really smart, doesn't agree with me politically, but very well educated, very smart, and a reasonable person. And he immediately brought up the weaponization of our government with the DOJ and James Comey. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Blood is shooting out of my eyes right now. Hang on. The weaponization of our government with the DOJ and James Comey. And I had to explain to him that your dad didn't say you're fired if you don't go get him. Your father said, make a decision. Make a decision. Don't let the statute of limitations go out. And it went through a grand jury process. 2 out of the 3 charges were valid. And so you prosecute. That's different than what you guys, can you compare James Comey and what's happening there to what was done with you guys?
Well, I'll give you a little inside baseball. So I was the guy that got the call when they were raiding Mar-a-Lago, right? Obviously, I run all our commercial properties and our entire portfolio, everything in the Trump Organization. So I get a call from one of my team members. The FBI is here with a search warrant, and I go, "Excuse me, what do you mean? We have like the greatest relationship with all law enforcement. We love law enforcement." No, they're coming in. They have a search warrant to raid Mar-a-Lago right now, and I go, "You must be kidding me!" And I go, "Why?" Well, they're saying that the National Archives, asked the FBI to raid Mar-a-Lago. I go, "You mean like a glorified public library? You have 30 FBI agents there with machine guns because NARA." Asked for the raid. I went on Fox News that night. I think it was Jesse Waters or somebody. I went on Fox News that night. I go, "Give me a break. Like, I wasn't born yesterday. Like, you don't raid Mar-a-Lago, the former president's home, and very likely the future president again, because my father was doing great. You don't raid that home based on the National Archives. Like, you better believe Biden was behind this." And sure enough, 18 months later, it comes out that Biden was behind it, and Merrick Garland was 100% behind it, and they were the ones that authorized it. And the weaponization is unlike anything I'd ever seen. I mean, Glenn, we were a family that's never gotten so much as a speeding ticket ever in our lives, and we lived a pretty fast life in terms of business and life, until my father decided that he was looking to run again in 2024. in which case they indicted him 34 times for a $130,000 payment that he didn't even make. Like, I mean, people who were sitting in the courtrooms couldn't even possibly believe it. Again, we've had every single one of them overturned, but when I hear them talking about James Comey, who clearly, I mean, it very much looked like to me lied to, to Ted Cruz in that congressional area, that, testimony that day. I mean, give me a break. I mean, these guys, I probably spent $400 million defending ourselves from hoaxes. I mean, the Russia hoax, we had disproved to the FBI day one. We didn't have secret servers. There are no servers in the basement of Trump Tower because basements flood. You don't put, like computers 101, you don't put servers in basements, right? We didn't know anybody in Russia. They knew this, and they let this sham get perpetrated for 3 years so that one greedy woman could possibly get, 2 more votes. And then when she lost in an embarrassing fashion to people who didn't know what a damn delegate was, i.e. our family, because we had never been in politics before, they needed some way to justify her embarrassing performance.
They took your father off the ballot in Maine. They tried to take him off in Colorado. That to me is the weaponization of the political system. By going after you guys for the servers, by changing documents, literally FBI changing documents to go after people in your organization on the Russiagate stuff, changing the documents for a FISA court. That's true weaponization. Is there a chance that the Comey thing is going to bleed into a larger prosecution? Because I've been watching this, Eric. I've been watching this from the beginning. I was watching this when I was not for your father being president in 2016, saying, "Wait a minute, this isn't right. What is this? Yeah. This isn't right." It is so clear that this now was. I mean, the evidence is all there that this was a plan from the beginning. That is, quite honestly, I believe, still going on. Is there a chance? I mean, do you know if the grand conspiracy thing is going to happen?
Listen, I hope it does, right? I'm not in government, but it's the entire thesis of the book. I dealt with this more than anybody in the country for a 10-year period of time. They wanted us gone. I mean, Glenn, they were planting documents in Mar-a-Lago in my father's office. They were planting top secret folders on the carpet of my father's office. They admitted that to Judge Cannon, that they literally brought in top secret folders and they staged photo shoots, on my father's office floor. Right? The whole thing was contrived. The whole thing was a setup. The Russia thing was a scam. The dirty dossier that said that my father was doing horrible things, the most unthinkable things. It was a sham. The impeachment number 1 was a sham. The impeachment number 2 was a sham. To have 7 judges in Colorado just delete my father's name from a ballot was a sham. The fact that, again, a guy who worked very hard, has never crossed any line in his life, became the most subpoenaed person in American history, me. It was a sham. I mean, I didn't have a laptop from hell. I wasn't Hunter Biden. I wasn't doing illicit drugs. I wasn't, partaking in prostitution. I didn't have racy photos all over my, and I sure as hell wasn't doing illegal business deals all over the world with every shady country, as he very much seemed to be doing. And yet they came after us relentlessly. So do I think that criminality has to be paid for in some way? I do. And I find it so ironic when you see Chuck Schumer up there and Jake Tapper. I'm not sure if you saw him the other day. This is the weaponization of the government at its finest. Give me a break. I've taken more arrows than anybody could possibly take and still be standing. And my father, he's taken unlimited arrows, all in defense of this nation that we love. And it's it's true irony and it's true projection.
I don't know. I mean, I am amazed at your family. I'm amazed at your father. The things that you guys have put up with, the things that you have come through. And at some point, did anyone in the family say, "Dad, please, I mean, we want Grandpa to be around. Stop, please." Did that ever happen?
You know what? It's kind of funny. I think that's exactly what they thought was going to happen. I think they thought that they could take, this kind of New York billionaire and make his life so uncomfortable that he would want to go back to Palm Beach, Florida, play golf, hang out with his grandkids, fly around on Trump Force One, live at Mar-a-Lago, live a great life, right? And there's no question that was their calculus. How do we make fun of him? How do we silence him? How do we bankrupt him? How do we go after his family? How do we raid his home? How do we indict him, right? How do we break up his business? How do we strip the Trump name off of every building in New York City? I mean, those are all the things that I dealt with. And, I think they wholly misunderstood him. And, maybe it's like a masochistic type quality, but like the harder they hit him and the harder they hit us, the more resilient we were. I was in those courtrooms, Len, with my father every single day. When they turned around in New York and read off 34 bogus felony counts, and with a corrupt judge, and you know a lot about that trial. My father stood around, turned around, shook my hand. We left the courthouse. We did a press conference. I mean, I was speaking on the front stairs of that courthouse every single day to the press. I remember my father was gagged. And then we went down and we did a big fundraiser. I mean, we literally left a courthouse after having 34 felony indictments and went to a political fundraiser. I mean, the man never stopped. He was the Energizer Bunny in a red tie wearing a suit on steroids. And the harder they hit him, the harder he worked, the harder he fought back. But beyond that, I think the more the American people realized this whole thing was a sham. I mean, there's only so many times you can cry wolf before everybody realizes it's nonsense. And they cried wolf with Russia, and everybody saw that. And they cried wolf with the impeachments, and everybody saw that. And people fundamentally started distrusting the mainstream media in this country. And independent voices like yours all of a sudden became the most powerful, we've ever seen in the nation's history. And, and all of a sudden this whole thing turned around where people started realizing, hey, the harder they hit this guy, the more I like him, because this is the system. This is the corruption at work. And listen, obviously it worked because my father won the popular vote. He won every single swing state. He won 11 counties in California that had never been run by a Republican. In 37 years, no Republicans won Miami-Dade County. We won it by 11 points. And every single state in the country, all 50 states, tacked way right. And so clearly their games didn't work, but that's what they wanted. They wanted to make his life so damn uncomfortable that he would bow out of the race and say, you know what, let's just go live my glory years at Mar-a-Lago, living out the American dream as an ex-president. And they wholly underestimated the man.
But the whole family was like that? I mean, everybody in the family. I mean, I don't say this as, you guys are amazing. Even if you would have said, Dad, stop it, please, not for us, for you, stop it. It's not a sign of weakness. I'm amazed that no one in the family ever just sat down and said,
Glenn,
Dad.
At that point, I think we were up to our eyeballs. Meaning, they had us in every, I had 100 depositions. I had 100 subpoenas on my desk. They were raiding our homes. They were trying everything they possibly could to take us out, to bankrupt us. You had Letitia James in New York, the corruption that was that case that I just had overturned 5-0, by the appellate courts in New York. This is an absolute sham with a sham judge. You had the Alvin Bragg nonsense. You had the Fannie Willis nonsense with her boyfriend in Georgia. You had the Jack Smith as he plants documents at Mar-a-Lago and ransacks Melania's closet and Barron's room and, in our home. At this point, we were neck deep in it. I mean, we had no other choice. I mean, if we would have given up then, we would have been dead. They would have taken us out. And there was one point, and I talk about it in the book, where my father looks at me coming out of that courtroom and he says, honey, I don't know how, but we're going to win. And I said, listen, we either win or we're all going to be in jail, because that's exactly what these corrupt people will do to us. And again, it's a great irony that I find in, the way the Democrats are treating the Comey indictment this week. It's they would have put us all in jail and had us rot there for eternity.
Oh yeah.
Had we not had pulled it off. That was their exact intent, and they had weaponized the entire system in order to make that happen.
So my wife and I we just moved to Florida, and we live, near the Trump National Golf Course. We were driving by, and I thought, everything this family has done, everything this brand has gone through, I think it's a more powerful brand now than ever before. And part of it is the way you guys have dealt with the, just weathered every storm. But also, I think your dad, I've had a lot of respect for your dad as a builder. And, I watched him build buildings in New York. And And honestly, Eric, I really thought, because he could build things twice as fast as anybody else in New York. And I'm like, how does this guy not have mob connections? How do you do business without the mob? And nothing. Clean, clean, clean. So I don't know how he does what he does. He's just a machine. But I feel like everything he has done in a strange change of topic here, I think he found the golf course and the golf resorts are like, that's, I think he's the best at that in the world now.
Yeah. Well, thank you, by the way, and that's almost a great compliment to me, because I've done every single one of them with him, and I bought most of those properties and developed every single one around the world, and we're really good at it. And it's really funny when when he's talking about Gaza the other day, and he goes, the potential for this place, what I could make this place into would be so incredible. And then the Democrats come out, oh, ha, what do you know about building, right? It's like when AOC came after Elon Musk, oh, ha, Elon Musk, like the least qualified person to run the FAA. I'm sitting there saying, this guy is catching rockets with chopsticks. Like, you might not want to, belittle him. He's got, about 4,000 times the IQ of you, AOC, but, and they're trying to do the same thing to my father. I mean, there's no one that's a better builder, and I have his genetics. I mean, he'll tell you the two of us are like two peas in a pot with that. That's what I do. And by the way, Glenn, I got the library approved yesterday. It's going to be in Miami, Florida, and it's spectacular. So we just got the greatest site in Florida, and I'm going to be building that. And I promise you, it's not going to look like the Barack Hussein Obama presidential library in Chicago that looks like a jailhouse. They're literally going around neighborhoods in Chicago. They're like, "What does that building look like?" And everybody's like, "Man, it looks like a jail." It's going to be a spectacular building. But no, I think my father will. Now, 10 years ago, I would have said what he would have wanted on his tombstone was the greatest developer, the greatest builder. I think today it's a man who literally not only inspired a nation, but opened the eyes of the entire nation to how we were getting ripped off, the flaws of government, and how much better we could be running this country, which he's doing right now.
Well, I've never seen anything like it. When he said, "Hey, I'm going to be the greatest president," I thought, well, that's I'm a historian. I know history. That's a pretty high standard. I told him myself, I think you're in the Abraham Lincoln. You keep going. You're in the Abraham Lincoln, George Washington kind of territory. And it may take 100 years for people to realize that. But I've never seen anything like it.